Welcome back to another episode of Humanhood 101's Parental Reflections. And today we have a wonderful, amazing blast from the past guest, Miss Niambi Goings. Did I say your name properly? I don't think I've ever
Yeah.
said that. Okay, Miss Niambi Goings, who I have known in my childhood. So this would be an interesting conversation, big time in regards to parents. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm really excited to interview you because you do some really amazing things in the community. You do some wonderful things in regards to human development, which can go towards the development of parenting. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Right. Absolutely. Um, I would say I do things in a couple of different spaces. I am a mom. I'm a mom of three boys. Professionally for work, I work in public health, managing a parenting program. So I work with professionals that support families and parents that are facing difficulties or behavior issues or things like that with their children.
Mm,
So part of this program, I work to get those professionals like guidance counselors, social workers, teachers, but even community members trained in this evidence-based parenting program to support their parents. But I'm also trained in the program. So that has been interesting, and we can get into that as we go. And then in addition to that, I guess what you would call like my purpose and my passion work. I am a holistic wellness practitioner. And so I'm a yoga instructor. I lead meditation. I use different modalities to support holistic health and wellness and spiritual development. And like you said, all of it absolutely ties into how I show up as a mom now.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So I already know that you've had some um, growth and development and healing. I'm just going to assume this. It's like every time I meet someone who works in mental health or in therapy, they usually have some things that they don't.
Right.
It's like it's
Absolutely.
always. So it's like I already know that you have the goods because sometimes a lot of us are faced with that mountain to climb, and
Mhm.
it's for a reason. It's for not only for our own good, but so we can share to help others. So awesome. Oh, I can't wait to continue to build with you. So, all right, first question. You
Okay.
ready? First question is the easiest question. All right. What advice would you give to yourself before becoming a parent? If you can go back and past, like what would you say into your ear real quick? Like as soon as you got pregnant with your first child or anything in that realm.
Um, um, Probably with my first child. So that's interesting. What I'll say with the way I'll answer this, in my mind, I always had a desire to have more than one child. So I'll say that. So the advice that I would probably have given myself is like there's no finish line almost. Like be patient with
Wow.
yourself. Always something else, like because they're always growing. I would have told myself something like that, like not that you can't get it wrong or right, but like be patient with yourself and this little human. Like it's not a project or a job to finish, something along those lines. Because I think early on, especially when I had my first son, you feel like you're following the steps. I need to do this and I need to do that, and they need to go to school and I need to get them here and I need to get them there. And you're not thinking like, this is a whole person. And I have this on a plan in my mind, but we're going to have a relationship. I guess maybe that's what I would say. Like, this is a relationship. Something like that I would have told myself because I think it would have saved me um, nothing. I was going to say heartache, but not that I had heartache. It's all part of the experience, but something like that.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
that's that's easy.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's harder for me.
That's easy. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's I've never heard anyone say that. If I've asked that question before, like tell yourself to be patient. You know,
right.
I think that's something I have to tell myself every day.
Hmm.
Like I practice patience because I think your level of patience continues to like is just stretched all the time, because once you master one level, here's another level.
Right. And I think that's the piece, like to say not to get frustrated. Like once you've mastered one level and you can feel like you're starting over again, it doesn't dismiss what you did. That stage, and now you're on to the next stage. So yeah,
Yes, not dismissing what you've learned. That's man.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. We might have to come back to that. All right. That's gonna be
Okay.
an interesting topic. So next question. All right. What is your most difficult parenting struggle?
Um, mm, so right now, honestly, what I would say is my oldest son is 22.
Woo! You got 22-year-old?
I have a 22-year-old, a 16, and a 10.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's
And yeah.
wow.
um, Even as I was thinking about it, I was about, well, I'll give you my answer, but then I'll give you like the
Please, yeah.
the
Please.
aha that I just had. And so I would say my most difficult struggle right now is learning my role as the parent of an adult,
Mm,
right? Because I'm still a parent. Um, and in theory, you can verbalize, like I've heard, like when you are parenting and as they become teenagers, you really need to shift from like manager to mentor. Like you cannot manage them. I mean, you can try, but it won't work because they want their independence, they want their freedom. You have to become a mentor. Um, in total transparency, I recently went through a separation and a divorce. So I'm also parenting, and my 22-year-old doesn't live with me. So I'm navigating what is my role as a mom of a young man that's not physically under my roof.
mm,
It is hard. It is hard. Yeah.
mm, 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 mm. And that will be your most difficult struggle right now.
I would say so because, and that was the thought that I just had, that I think probably most of my most difficult struggles come in regard to it being a first time. So
Mm,
everything with my oldest son is the first time, even though all three of them are so different. Um, I've never been here before. I never walked this walk before. I don't know what it's like. And outside of that, I did have some difficulties with my youngest son that I think definitely tie into how I started seeing my spiritual development and my social and emotional healing and growth and like emotional regulation. I tie that to that. And so had you asked me that question maybe 2 years ago, it would have been about some of the struggles that I was having with my youngest son. But
okay.
right now it's, because I'm still mom. He's 22, but he's still my son. And you still have, especially as my firstborn, thoughts and ideas of what life would have been like, what path he would have taken. Um, and all of it is different now. So I'm navigating and negotiating parenting different with a 22-year-old.
Mm, mm. And you have the 22-year-old is oldest, and the youngest is how old?
10.
Woo! My oldest is 10.
Oh, yes, that's
Wow.
the youngest. And then my middle one is 16.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, how much of how you were parented, right? How much of how you were parented do you see in how you parent your children?
Mm,
Because of, in spite of, things passed
right.
down, all of the above.
Um, I would say so. my idea of, I would say how I was parented, so I was raised by my mom. My dad was in the picture. My dad is still in my life, but it was just me and my mom in the household. And I would say a lot of my ideas around house and home were informed by how I was parented, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
just creating a warm environment, a comfortable environment, a engaging environment, or having activities or doing things together as a family. That was stuff that was really big with my mom. And I guess that's a form of parenting, but like the nitty gritty of how I parent, I guess I would say is different from my mom. My mom was much more lax and maybe hands off, maybe might be the way to describe it.
Yeah.
Um, and then I would say, because I've been parenting for over 22 years, probably when I first started parenting, I was the exact opposite of my mom. I was like, helicopter mom. Like everything with my oldest son, I was like on it. I wanted to get it perfect. I didn't want to mess it up. That's what I was saying. The message I would give myself, I was so afraid of messing it or him up that
Why?
I don't know. I don't know. So part of my own work and like journey is like getting down to who I am as a person and my personality. And I just have a very um black and white, or I'm learning that life is not black and white. And I'm learning that everyone lives their life through the lens through which they see it and what their experiences are. But growing up, I wasn't that way. I was very right or wrong, up, down. And so as a result, I've always been super critical of myself. And I think that just poured over into parenting. Like I said, I always knew I wanted to be a mom. I always knew that from early on. And I knew that I wanted to be a mom of boys. I don't know why, but I always did. And I guess I just felt like subconsciously, I don't know, that's a good question. I don't know why I thought I would mess it up, but I did not want to. I did not want to mess them up. I still don't want to mess them up. I
Right.
just have a better understanding now that I can't. I mean, I can, but as long as I, do my due diligence, God got them for the most part.
So how much of your parenting do you see play an adverse effect in their development, if any? Because you might not have no adverse effect, you know.
Mhm. Um, hmm. So I was,
That's a tricky one. I know.
that is,
I
yeah.
I just peep. I just like I look at my daughter and she's awesome, you know. And I sometimes I forget that she's only 10.
Mhm.
So I realized the other day, you know, that she's doing things because she wants to get the best response from me. You know, she wants to make sure that I keep her at that high standard, and she doesn't want to ever fall below that. I'm like, damn, like damn, but it's like, wow, at least I notice it. You
Right,
know, I have
right.
opportunity to make adjustment. I'm sorry, I'm like you're reflecting, so I'm
No,
just thinking about what
no,
I
no.
experience. You know, but
Yeah.
what do you see if you see anything at all?
I would say, so I think I guess again, like when you say how much of my parents, and I think maybe the way I view it, what I see had an adverse effect on them was stages in my life when I lacked growth for myself, when I was emotionally unregulated, when I was not developing, when I would be overwhelmed. Um, I can see ways that mainly, no, actually with all three of them. I was about to say mainly with my oldest son, with all three of them, but it shows up differently in all three of them. But I can see when they would interact with me a certain way. I think your sharing made me understand it also. Like you see how your daughter is interacting with you, or how she's trying to show up for you to get the response that she wants. And I think with my boys, in some ways, they did that. And the ways that they chose to do it when I was out of balance was a reflection of that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think like for me, I don't know. It's so intense. It's that, you know, I have to think about how far I go with her as much as possible, because I'm like, I want her to be and do and think for herself and not have to worry about anybody else, including me. You know, I want to make a decision purely for myself. And that could be hard, you know, I think when you're conditioned to want to please your father, you know, and I'm like, damn, I messed up. So let me see. It looks like I used the wrong Zoom because it's like it's giving me like 10 minutes left. I don't know why. That's weird. But if it stops, I might have to send you a new Zoom link.
Okay.
So one that I use for my work, and I have another one, and I guess I used the wrong one. So give me 1 second, and I'll edit all this stuff out.
Okay.
Because I got some questions for you. I got some questions for you. Second. All right. Give me a second. Create. Um, yeah, this is not gonna happen right now. This is a lot. See, I got 8 minutes. So let's just keep going, and then when the 1 minute stops, then I'll reboot, and then we'll call you one more time.
Okay.
All right, next question. Let's see. So if you could press a magical button that create your ideal parenting situation, what would it be to create or to give you the highest joy that you can experience as a parent?
If I could press a button,
To create your most ideal parenting experience, what would that experience look like?
so I'll answer this, and maybe as I'm answering it out, because I don't know, is it, I guess in my mind I'm thinking like, am I thinking that I could rewind time? But I
Yeah.
would say, okay, if I the ideal parenting experience, honestly, is my current experience.
Is your current experience?
Is my current experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Um, and because it's not to say that there are no hiccups. And like I shared, my youngest son, we are working through a number of things in terms of behavior and how he's growing and how he's evolving. And they all are growing and shifting. But the reason why this would be my ideal parenting experience is because I feel equipped. I
Mm,
feel well equipped for anything right now.
mm, mm.
Um, yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah. Um, and it all for me, it ties back to my work. It tied back to me getting myself emotionally regulated. It tied back to my spiritual development. And one, I would say, an aha moment for me that shifted how I parented. It must have been maybe like, it wasn't 7 years ago, maybe about 6 years ago.
Mm,
And I was in a class. I had gone back to school, and or was it a class? It was either school, I don't know where it was, either school or a workshop or something. And I'll loosely like paraphrase, but it was just basically saying, if we all are individuals walking an individual path, why do you not see your children that way? And I was
mm.
like, oh, like these are little humans. You know what I'm saying? They're not my doll babies. They're not, they
Right.
have thoughts, they have opinions, they have desires, they have, they have different personalities. And so the more I learn about myself, even astrologically or who they are with human design, every single thing that I learn about myself, I now say, I need to make sure I know my boys' charts that way. I need to make sure I know, so that I can start to understand them as people. And I was about to say even the 10-year-old, but yeah, even the 10-year-old, because when he was 6 and 7, I feel like the younger ones, we could definitely get into that space of like believing that they don't know this or they don't know that. But as I'm unlearning, I'm realizing that their lack of fear, their lack of exposure to a lot of stuff in this world makes them more free in a spiritual way than some of us adults that have already been conditioned to the ways of the world. So I actually lean into, when my 10-year-old is talking, I lean into it. I hear him, his energy. Like I know that he is an amazing spirit. And so to see them that way, this is the parenting space that I would want to be in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so awesome, man. That's incredible. Ashe. All right. Next question.
All right.
Do you have a parenting fear? Like, what's your worst parenting fear?
So yeah. So let me I will say it this way. I have my worst parenting fear is that like something horrible happens to one of my children.
Of course.
I think because when you first said it in my mind, and this might sound harsh, I don't know, but in my mind, I was thinking like if one of my kids got killed or hurt or something.
Yeah.
I think my fear beyond that is something happening to them and them having to then live through trying to repair it. So, and I know that might sound harsh, but I feel like sometimes it's harder when something really bad happens and you survive. I hate to say it that way, but you know what I'm saying? Because now you have to live through that. That being said, even as I'm saying it out loud, like I said before, I know in my heart that I have the tools spiritually, the grounding to walk them through anything. Not that it'll be easy, but yeah, I'm well equipped. I'm well equipped at this stage.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful thing to have that mindset, to be equipped to deal with facing whatever might be uncomfortable for you. Like I think losing a child, I don't understand that. That's like a lot, but you look like you're ready to face your fears. It sounds like you're ready for Tom's parenting wise. So, we probably need to do some more sessions with you.
And I'll say, I don't know if this will come up in one of your questions, but my experience with my youngest son, it changed my life from his birth up until things that we faced these past few years. It has definitely shifted how I see parenting, how I parent, and it's a huge part of why I feel equipped to walk through.
So what was it that put you through this matriculation that gave you the equipment that you have right now, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So I'll say, so my youngest son was born in 2012. Well, he's the same age as your daughter. When my son was born in October.
She was born 2012 of May 17.
Okay. So he was born. Now, this didn't matter at the time, but just hindsight when you look back on it. He was born the night of Superstorm Sandy. In the hospital. It was a madhouse. Like, we don't get hurricanes in New York. We get a whole lot of stuff, but we don't get hurricanes. And it was just one of the most hectic times. And I had to go to the hospital and the power went out and the generators and just like all of the madness that was going on. there was a calm in my hospital room. Even my doctor said, like, when she came in. Now, by this time, he was my third. So I had a routine. I would have like a playlist for music. I would take candles. I'm like, look, we're going to set the stage in this room. I don't know what y'all doing out in the hallway. Turn those fluorescent lights off. Like, I gotta. So there was always like this surreal, like, calmness around him that I can look back on now. And part of my beliefs and what I'm uncovering, I do believe that we were spiritually covered. And when I think about angels showing up and a legion of angels and things like that, I know there were different steps along the way that covered his birth, us getting home in the middle of a storm, just all of the things. Now, fast forward. So like I said, I am recently divorced, but we separated in 19, and then my mom passed in 19. And then, so now I'm by myself with the three boys. And I guess that was like September, and then COVID hit in March. And right before COVID hit, part of them, processing the separation between their father and I, my oldest son, that was when he went to go live with his father. So I was navigating him not being in the household and the other two and all of their emotions and all of this loss. It was just like the perfect storm. And what I can look back on now is I didn't have this language at the time, but I had a choice. And I either had a choice to get some tools and figure out how to survive this, or it was going to break me. And I just decided that I wouldn't be broken. So I dug deep in ways over the past 3 years, spiritually. I did my yoga teacher training, like all of this unfolded. But at the same time, my son started having behaviors in school and acting out. And I had all of these issues with the school. And simultaneously, I started my job with public health, working on the parenting program that I work on. And so I was blessed with two of my coworkers that have been in mental health and parenting and advocacy for their entire career. And so the struggle that I had with the school, with how they handled things, with how backhanded it was, it made me realize how blessed and covered I was to have these resources. People were showing up in my life in every aspect, my parenting, my job, and it was all brand, like it all just happened at the same time. And so I was growing, and then I was faced with, so that's why I said, had you asked me maybe 2 years ago what was my most difficult parenting experience, it was like this behavior and the acting out and trying to figure out like what is my son struggling with, and trying to honor the fact that he's grieving the loss of his grandmother and the separation, but we still have to, move forward and not act accordingly, but it can't just be a get out of jail free card. So I say that to say that with him, I really have to stretch myself to say, I see you as a person. I hear your voice, because he's honest. He'll acknowledge when he did wrong, but he still wants to let you know that the other people were wrong too. And so he's not saying, I don't want consequences for what I did. I just want you to know that they did it too, or, and so he has stretched me. I don't even remember how I got here. The question. I said my youngest son. Yeah. But what was your original question? Because I can go on the tangent.
The original question was, I asked you, I don't remember. I asked you about parenting fear. What if you had a parenting fear? What would it be?
Okay, and then I think I said my son. You said, how did I get here? That's what it was. You said, how did I get here to feel equipped?
How did you get right? Where did you get the equipment from? Thank you.
And so I was saying my youngest son. So he just challenges me, but he's challenging a different version of me. I'll put it that way. With my oldest son, I saw his challenging in a very human way, very much so how I was raised. You know, you're going to respect me. I'm the mom. I'm not going to be challenged in that way. I never saw his challenging me as a tool to strengthen me or sharpen who I was.
Wow.
My middle son was very mild-mannered. He never challenged. So then when the baby came, he was like, I'm going to give it all to you.
That's
Uh,
right. Another
yeah.
mountain. Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope I answered the question.
You did. And I think one of the things that stood out in regards to, having the equipment, right? Being equipped is one of the things that stands out was you had a semi-village, you had a community, you had some people that you can lean on, that you can pull from, that you can connect with, that you can express, that you can vent, that you can do
Right.
whatever it is that you need to do to find whatever balance you need to find to get right back into this journey of parenting, which can be, I don't want to say a war, but it's a battle, primarily with yourself. It's a battle. And then, I was always told that it's easier to fight, a military, a brigade of hundreds of soldiers than it is to fight yourself. Like, that's the hardest one. So
Right.
kudos to you. I think that's something that a lot of us lack,
And
as a
the
parenting.
thing I was going to say, the thing I would share about that is, so I've always been blessed with a village. When we were married and we lived in Jersey, we had a strong church family, and my ex-husband's family and my family. Um, and so it was always, we had it. But when we came here and when we got separated, what I would say is to any parents that feel like I don't have an organic village, or I don't have a close family, like everything that was my village was gone because
Mm,
I was out of Jersey. I was separated from my husband. I was not in contact. I didn't have that church family. I didn't have his family. I lost my mother.
mm,
And so I could have easily felt like I don't trust anybody to come in here. And I think that would have done me a disservice.
mm.
So I just encourage any parents that feel like they don't have support to see if you can find a space to open your heart and open yourself to welcome people in that can support you, because also sometimes we lean on the people that we know. So even had I leaned on my, family village, they would have given me different advice about how to parent this younger one. And we already talk about how if you're trying to do anything different, this youngest one, they probably would have been like, get the extension cord. But
That's right.
you know, so it's like sometimes what I've learned in parenting and in my life in general is people want to help me. The universe is always sending people, angels, spirit guides. I believe that the world is on my side. But if I stay focused on what I want the help to look like, I want it from you. I want you to show up this way for me. Then I can miss all of the help over here.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's so many levels. Because like there's so many of us who all we see is the issue, and we struggle with like finding a way to look outside the issue to solve it, or look within the issue to solve it. And then there's some of us who are struggling with accepting help. Like there's so many levels to this. It's so
Right.
crazy. Wow, this has been awesome. This has been really awesome, and I'm looking forward to a sequel because we really ain't get too gutter with it.
I know.
We really scratched the surface, but I think it'll be nice to have a series. But if I could just do one more question, right? It would be if you have this, right? Something, an experience, a crazy, outlandish experience that you've had in parenting that you've never told anybody or that very little people know about.
Um,
Anything that stands out.
okay, I'm going to share.
Yay, parental confessions.
Okay, this is my parental confession. And it was my youngest son.
Okay.
So it was in the middle of COVID. So it was not so they got sent home. Down here, they got sent home in like March of 20. And then we thought they would go back. And then summertime came and we thought they would be going back in August. And they ended up having to homeschool in August. So he was home. I was working from home. My middle son was he must have been a freshman in high school because he had to do his whole freshman year online. I mean, it was just so many levels to the madness. I was like, this is nonsense. I'm not a teacher. I was so through. Anyway, we could do a whole thing about COVID, but
yeah, we will.
so I had them in different places, different rooms because they both had to be on the Zoom. And at this time, my son was really acting out, for lack of a better word. And this particular morning, I think I was trying to have him get dressed and I had to get on a work meeting and he needed to be on the Zoom and he didn't want to turn the camera on and he's arguing back and forth with me. And so he's maybe six. He might have been 6 or 7. I don't even think he was 7. He might have been 6 or 7. He was in second grade. He's arguing back and forth with me, and I'm screaming, and he's screaming, and the window is open, and I'm like, I know my neighbors can hear me, and I'm going crazy. And he grabs the TV and slams it down off the dresser.
What?
One of us is not going to make it. One of us is not going to make it. Right. So here's the confession. I think he saw rage in my face and he ran and slid up under the bed.
What?
Lost it. I flipped the whole bed up. I was like, if you don't get from under this bed and get on this Zoom. And then I said some other things. But of course, I can envision myself now. He's like cowered down in the corner. The whole freaking bunk bed is up in the air. All of this is before 9 o'clock. And I was like, this can't be my life. This is not happening right now. So that's my confession. He ended up getting on the Zoom. He was mad and crying. And then by the end of the day, I was crying because I felt bad. I can't believe I flipped the bed over. I lost my cool. My middle son was in his room irritated. It was a mess. It took us a couple of days to rebound, but. I was Zen and a yogi when I was in the throes of parenting. And that's the one thing I will say before we wrap up is like, just be patient with yourself. I think sometimes we are so hard and know that don't judge your parenting by what you see online or the ideas of gentle parenting. I believe in it. I believe in parenting our children different, but it is a process. And so if you lose it, like I said earlier, that doesn't undo everything that you did before. You just have to have the tools to be able to get back on track. So even me, well-equipped, spiritually developed, had the bed upside down. It was madness in here.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Wow. Yeah. So before I give the parental principle for the day, please tell the audience where to find you, how to get in touch with you, how to book any sessions for yoga. Tell them everything.
Yes. Okay. So you can find me. I'm on Instagram, Niambi_dreamcatcher. You can email me at niambi.goings@gmail.com. I have my yoga offerings on Instagram. Also, my website is icandoallthings.org. So those are the 3 places you can find me. So I have yoga. I have a weekly meditation offering Sundays at 8 a.m. It's no cost. We're usually on for like 30 minutes. I do a reading, we meditate, and then we get off. I have a workshop coming up. It's a 3-week series workshop starting Wednesday, and it's called The Journey Within, a Warrior's Journey. I definitely identify as having a warrior spirit, and I think it is what has equipped me. So information about that is on my Instagram. I'll be offering that again. And so did I hit everything? Yoga, meditation, spiritual development. Yeah, I think I covered it all.
Awesome, awesome. So I think it would be fit to do this parenting principle for today. Today's parenting principle is what I call the sequence of success. And it is when you are meeting a moment of discomfort in your parenting journey, remember that that moment of discomfort is an opportunity for growth and evolution. The sequence to use, and I know you back me up as a yogi instructor, the sequence to use is to stop, breathe, and then think. In that order. Don't try to think first. Stop, breathe, and then think. And
Yes,
if you follow that sequence without any other instruction from anybody else, you will see another level of clarity for you being able to master that experience. Thank you so
absolutely.
much for joining us. I can't wait for part two. This is going to be dope.
Yes.
It's going to
Thank
be,
you.
it's going to be dope. Peace to everybody who's listening in. Continue to give us some comments, questions, objections on what you feel and thought. And I'll see you next time. Peace.
Take care.
All right.
If you've enjoyed this clip, subscribe to Parental Confessions podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Spreaker. You can also watch Parental Confessions on YouTube, so subscribe, like, and leave a review. Be sure to download a copy of my parental book that's changing the lives of families, entitled Fathering Daughters 101, which is a self-reflecting parenting manual for not just fathers, but for anyone who is a parent or plans to be a parent. And if you haven't already, follow me on Instagram at humanhood101 and go into my bio, sign up for free weekly parenting tips, and join the Parent Reflection Meetup once a week, where parents meet to connect and learn how to approach parenting challenges. Till next time, peace. If you If you've enjoyed this clip, subscribe to Parental Confessions podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Spreaker. You can also watch Parental Confessions on YouTube, so subscribe, like, and leave a review. Be sure to download a copy of the parenting book that's changing the lives of families, entitled Fathering Daughters 101. It's a self-reflecting parenting manual for not just fathers, but for anyone who is a parent or plans to be a parent. If you haven't already, follow me on Instagram at humanhood101 and go into my bio, sign up for free weekly parenting tips, and join the Parenting Reflection Meetup once a week, where parents meet to connect and learn how to approach all parenting challenges. Till next time, peace.